At first, the desert looks empty: red sand, hard sunlight, wind moving across dry grass. A place so quiet it almost feels forgotten. But in the Australian outback, silence can be a warning. Because sometimes a landscape does not die all at once. It fades slowly. The small animals disappear first. Then the soil loses life. The grasses stop returning. The birds go quiet. And by the time people notice, the whole system has already started to unravel. This Dingo Rewilding documentary begins with a strange question. What if the animal Australia spent more than a century trying to remove was also one of the animals the land needed most? The dingo has never been an easy animal to talk about. To some farmers, it is a threat. To some ecologists, it is an apex predator. To many First Nations stories and traditions, it is part of the living country. And to the outback itself, the dingo may be something even more important. A missing rule: every ecosystem has rules. Not written rules, but living ones. Who hunts? Who hides? Who grazes? Who digs? Who spreads seeds? Who keeps moving because something bigger is watching? When those rules are broken, nature does not always collapse in a dramatic instant. Sometimes it simply loses its rhythm. In Australia, that rhythm was changed after European settlement. Sheep and cattle arrived. Rabbits spread. Red foxes and feral cats became some of the most destructive invasive predators on the continent. And dingoes, seen as a danger to livestock, were trapped, poisoned, fenced out, and pushed away from huge parts of the landscape. The goal was simple: protect farms, but nature is rarely simple. When a top predator disappears, the animals below it do not just carry on as before. Some grow in number, some become bolder, some begin using places they once avoided. Ecologists call this a trophic cascade. It sounds technical, but the idea is easy to understand. Remove one powerful animal at the top, and the effects can fall through the whole food chain. In parts of Australia, scientists have studied how dingoes may influence kangaroos, wallabies, foxes, cats, and even vegetation. The debate is still active. Dingoes are not a magic solution. They can create conflict, especially around livestock. But the deeper idea is hard to ignore. Predators do not only kill, they change behavior. A fox that feels safe will hunt differently. A kangaroo with no reason to move may graze too long in one place. A feral cat with no competition may turn night after night into a hunting ground. And for Australia's small native mammals, that pressure has been devastating. Bilbies, bandicoots, quolls, bettongs, and other small mammals once moved through large parts of the dry interior. Many were diggers. They scratched at the soil searching for roots, fungi, insects, and seeds. They looked small, but their work was enormous. Every little hole they dug helped turn the soil. It trapped leaf litter. It caught seeds. It gave rainwater a place to sink in instead of running away across hard ground. These animals were not just surviving in the desert, they were gardening it. Then cats and foxes changed everything. For a small mammal that evolved without those predators, the outback became a dangerous place. Many species vanished from areas where they had lived for thousands of years. Some survived only behind fences, on islands, or inside carefully protected conservation zones. That is why modern rewilding projects in Australia are so important. In places like Sturt National Park in New South Wales, conservation teams have been working to return locally extinct mammals to protected desert landscapes. Fences, camera traps, predator control, GPS tracking, and careful releases are all part of the work. This is not a simple story of opening a gate and letting nature fix itself overnight. It is slower than that, and in some ways more powerful. Because the goal is not just to save one species, the goal is to rebuild relationships. A bilby returning to the desert is not only a bilby, it is a digger returning to the soil. A quoll returning is not only a predator, it is a native hunter returning to a system that has been missing its old tensions. A bandicoot returning is not only a small animal, it is movement, disturbance, seed trapping, insect hunting, and soil turning. Nature heals through jobs, and when too many jobs go missing, the land becomes poor. That is where the dingo becomes such a powerful symbol. A healthy dingo presence can create what scientists sometimes call a landscape of fear. That does not mean constant panic. It means awareness. Animals move differently when predators are present. They stop feeding in one place for too long. They avoid exposed areas. They listen more. They spread out. To humans, fear sounds negative. In nature, the right amount of fear can create balance. It can give grasses time to grow. It can push grazers across the land instead of letting them strip one area bare. It can force smaller predators to change where and when they hunt. And sometimes those changes create space for vulnerable animals to survive. But this is where the story must stay honest. Dingoes are not cartoon heroes. They are not harmless. They are powerful wild animals. Any serious rewilding plan has to consider livestock, local communities, genetics, disease, prey numbers, fencing, and long-term monitoring. The lesson is not release predators everywhere. The lesson is that ecosystems are networks, and broken networks cannot always be repaired by treating one symptom at a time. For decades, humans have tried to manage damaged landscapes with traps, poison, fences, and constant intervention. Sometimes those tools are necessary, but they can also show how far the system has moved away from self-balance. Rewilding asks a different question. Instead of asking, how do we control every part of nature, it asks, which missing relationships need to return? That question changes everything because the Outback is not empty land. It is memory. It remembers animals that are gone. It remembers old movements, old pressures, old partnerships between predator-prey, soil, grass, insects, and rain. When those connections begin to return, the change may start small. A camera trap catches a bilby at night. A patch of soil looks softer. A native grass sets seed. A bird comes back to feed on insects. A fox avoids open ground. A creek bed holds moisture a little longer after rain. None of these moments looks like a miracle on its own, but together they become something larger. They become recovery. And recovery in the desert is rarely loud. It does not announce itself. It begins in the dark under the stars, with tiny feet digging into sand and golden eyes watching from the scrub. The dingo's howl is often imagined as a sound of danger, but in the right landscape it can mean something else. It can mean the top of the food chain is no longer empty. It can mean the old rules are returning. It can mean the land is starting to remember how to be whole. The most powerful part of this story is not that one predator can save everything. That would be too simple. The real lesson is that life depends on connection. Predators shape prey. Prey shape plants. Plants shape soil. Soil shapes water. Water shapes everything. Break enough of those connections and even a vast wilderness can begin to fade. Restore them carefully, and even damaged land can surprise us. Australia's dingo story is still being written. It is complex, controversial, and unfinished. But it forces us to look at wildness differently. Maybe the animals we fear are not always the enemies of balance. Maybe some of them are the guardians of it. And maybe the future of restoration is not only about planting trees or building fences. Maybe it is also about having the courage to bring back the missing heartbeat of a place. As the sun drops over the red country and the heat leaves the sand, the outback changes, small animals begin to move. Birds settle into the scrub. Somewhere beyond the grass, a dingo steps into the fading light. Then comes the howl. Not the sound of chaos, not the sound of a wasteland, but the sound of a landscape remembering itself. And if we are willing to listen, it may be telling us something important. Nature does not always need us to control it. Sometimes it needs us to return what we removed, step back, and let the wild come home. If this story made you see predators differently, like the video and subscribe for more documentary stories from VeyrScope.